Okay, let's get started. Good morning. My name is Ernest Stambouli, and I welcome you all to this webinar. This is version control for the multi-team and multi-stakeholder MBSE enterprise. I am the founder of Achillis, Inc. We are a small business located in Southern California, the US, and we are a consultancy for model-based and model-driven development approaches, serving the business enterprises and system engineering communities in many industries. And I've been in the field for 25 years, and I am an author with many books published on the subject. With me is Daniel Siegel with Liber Software. Liber is a software development company that was founded in 1996 and has a global presence in the model-based engineering world. Daniel is the business development person for Liber, and he is also highly technical. I've known him for 15 years, and we have a long, trusted relationship. So I asked Daniel to attend as a panelist today so that he can support this webinar with the tough questions about version control, using their widely popular tool and the only one of its kind, Lemon Tree, which you will see a demonstration of towards the end of this webinar. Liber, as far as I am concerned, is a leading pioneer in providing solutions for model-based version control, configuration management, and in the recent release of Lemon Tree, solutions for product line engineering. Welcome, Daniel. Thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Ernest. It's always super exciting if the stories I typically tell are told by someone else, and in this case it's Ernest, someone who I know for a very long time. So I will enjoy this very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Appreciate the support here. Today's webinar, the first of a series of 3 webinars, will cover version control using Enterprise Architect, the popular modeling tool from Spark Systems. And we're also going to be looking at Lemon Tree from Liber, which is a visual diff and merge tool. Before we get started, some webinar bookkeeping. The talk and demo will take about 30 minutes. And we will take questions after the presentation. So as we proceed, please locate the questions box on your webinar panel and feel free to type in your questions during the presentation. The webinar is being recorded, so let's get started. I'm going to take a strategic approach talking about version control in modeling. We are going to look at it from the wider context of product family engineering. Some of you know it as product line engineering. There's a slight difference between the two, but I'm going to refer to this as product family engineering in this webinar, which is really our ultimate aim in this webinar series. I'll give you the details for the other 2 webinars at the end of the presentation. So first, we will look at model repository configurations and strategies when working with Enterprise Architect from that's Sparks EA. And then we are going to do a brief demonstration of Lemon Tree so that you get a good sense of what visual version control of models looks like when working with EA models in multi-team and multi-stakeholder projects. If you have ever looked at tackling product family engineering in your environment, you probably already have a sense of the extraordinary complexity of this endeavor. One of the challenges when you do that is identifying the right tools and the adequate methodology to get to workable solutions. So product family engineering is an extraordinarily complex challenge, requiring a strategy for specifying, for maintaining, and for deploying product variants across varied markets, and do that from a single base specs and reusable artifacts. Now, model-based engineering, MBSE, is a natural fit for approaching this challenge because it was conceived as a thinking tool for engineering teams to manage complexity of large-scale and complex product development throughout their lifecycle. This is one of the reasons MBSE is in popular demand in large business enterprises, aerospace, defense, automotive, and many other industries. Model-based methods and techniques can be successfully utilized for producing specific product models and for managing product family evolution at reasonable costs. However, making existing MBSE environments that you might already have established, making them product family engineering capable, requires the confluence of adequate methodology, enterprise architecture concerns that must be addressed upfront, languages, that's modeling languages, and tools, of course. So for example, standard enterprise modeling languages today have a built-in extension mechanism to incorporate orthogonal concerns, such as product family engineering concerns, for use by engineers and modelers and developers. On the methodology side, proper practices for version control and configuration management are a necessary precursor for successful product family management. And of course, as importantly, capable tools are a prime requirement for visualizing the trees of model versions, the visual differences amongst them, and the ability to mix, match, and merge changes error-free from various sources for the sake of coordinating and collaborating effectively and efficiently with everyone involved in the project, trading partners, providers, and intra-enterprise teams. So when you have a product family engineering enabled development environment, teams are now able to perform within a manageable cost range, right? And so that we can attain the usual improved time to market because we reduce the time, effort, money, and headaches while attaining the highest degrees of product quality and safety standards. So in this 3-webinar series, you will learn how to incrementally approach product family engineering from within your standard MBSE environment. What tools will be needed, what architectural concerns must be addressed upfront, and how to take advantage of existing standards, existing standard modeling languages and other standards around that, such as the systems modeling language and the SysML and the unified modeling language, UML, to overcome the product family engineering challenge. So on this slide, we see you are here in the first webinar, version control. The other 2 webinars will be addressing configuration management and product family engineering, respectively. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the high-level, strategy-level conversation, talking about Enterprise Architect. That's the popular modeling tool from Spark Systems. And so it's not going to be a tool demonstration. I'm simply going to talk about different repository types that are available with this tool and what repository strategies and configurations are possible there, depending on the structure of the development teams. So Enterprise Architect supports 3 types of repositories. The first type is a standalone repository sitting on the modeler's machine as an .eap or EAPX file, depending on what version you're using. EAP stands for Enterprise Architect Project. The second type of EA repository is a relational database management system server-based repository where multiple users can access the exact same repository. And finally, you can also set up your repository in the cloud. What's important for us in this webinar are the different repository configurations. We typically look at 3 configurations to illustrate what the overarching concurrent modeling team's strategy organizes around. What we will show here is not exhaustive, but fairly representative of typical configurations. We will look at the free floaters configuration, second, the distributed teams configuration, and finally, the single shared repository configuration. Any one of those configurations can be mixed and matched. The free floaters configuration accommodates modelers working as a distributed team, working on their own private EAP file. Models are exchanged amongst them via XMI import-export, utilizing standard file sharing means. Now, the pros of this configuration is that fully concurrent development relies on optimistic version control, which resolves modification conflicts and merges changes at the tail end, as opposed to mediated and synchronizing access during concurrent development. The cons of this configuration is that integrating and merging changes at the tail end requires manual inspection of models or their XMI representation, which is highly error-prone and labor-intensive. So naturally, this could become unmanageable without a highly capable visual diff and merge tool. Working with XMI to do diff and merge is nearly impossible. This is what it looks like. It doesn't matter how XMI savvy you are. It's simply not a way to do that. So the recommendation here, the best practice is don't do it. The next configuration is distributed teams. In this configuration, teams rely on pessimistic version control. Access conflicts among team members is mediated via manual processes, such as with a version control system that is directly integrated with Enterprise Architect. Models are exchanged across teams via XMI import and export. Now, the pros for this configuration is that it minimizes the need to merge during check-in at the team level. The cons is limited concurrent development because it relies on pessimistic version control. So integrating and merging changes across repositories require manual inspection of models or their XMI representation, which is highly error-prone and labor-intensive. So just like before, this could become unmanageable without a highly capable visual diff and merge tool. Finally, the single shared repository configuration. Here, all users connect over the network to a single shared repository. Update conflicts are mediated through a single mechanism, such as an integrated version control system. So the pros in this configuration is that modelers must rely on pessimistic version control, and the cons is that it restricts concurrent development. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to talk a little bit about Lemon Tree, that's the visual diff and merge tool from LibreLiber, and I'll probably invite Daniel to say a few words about that. So who uses Lemon Tree with EA? Companies manufacturing safety-relevant cyber-physical systems. LibreLiber has many customers around the globe in many different industries: automotive, transportation, avionics, aerospace, defense. Daniel, feel free to jump in here if I'm not representing your company properly.
All good, Ernest. All good.
Okay, fantastic. In general, standards such as IEC 61508 demand the application of configuration management. We have a very nice quote here from one of the customers here. And IEC 61508 has some very specific clauses for version control. This is very important for management to be aware of, especially if you're working in highly regulated environments where there are specific requirements for high rigor and safety standards. I won't go too much into details about that. Typically, this is what a version control scenario looks like when we're working with in a model-based environment. You would have two or more users. Here we're simply illustrating with two users that start off from a main branch. We'll call it version 1. And the first user will take pull a copy of that, modify it on their own environment. We'll call that version 1 prime. And the second user will work off the same base version of the system and modify whatever they need to. And we'll call that version 1 double prime. And then once the work is done, the check-in happens into a version, let's call it version 2, that combines the base version V1 plus V1 prime prime of the second user, and then we'll go to the first user will do the same and integrate their version. So as you can see over here, once the second modeler needs to integrate their changes, then they're going to need a powerful merge capability, which I'm going to demonstrate in a moment. When you are managing multiple releases, customizing for specific clients or customizing according to multiple product lines, the central objective is to shorten development cycles and to lower the cost of reusing various components or packages of a common model base. Lemon Tree enables teams to work in close cooperation between the main platform development and the various branches specific to customer projects. In the case of complex products with a large number of components and corresponding specialist groups that previously worked on the basis of a common model, completely new challenges arise at the model level. It is difficult to establish the so-called basic software, which forms the basis of the individual product lines as an independent platform, and to adapt and expand it in individual customer projects. It's important to be able to use established software development methods in order to manage the different life cycles of the projects and the platform. In this scenario, every user has the ability to use certain artifacts of the model in a defined version. They also have the ability to reference them unambiguously. The user can import individual versions of a specific package into their model without affecting previous development releases or iterations, and Lemon Tree intelligently merges the parts. This enables teams to reuse individual parts of the development in different projects, which is a requirement for organizations aiming at product family engineering. So before I jump into the demo of Lemon Tree, here are some highlights from their website. They support diff and merge, model versioning. They offer seamless integration with a multitude of popular version control systems. They support parallel development of versions and variants by supporting model branching. And the tool offers the ability to preview merges before committing them, and changes are visualized clearly and understandably for reviews. Daniel, anything you'd like to add here?
Yes, certainly. And I want to stress one point. People come to us because they search a solution to manage their models. People stay with us once they figure out what capabilities they earn for their systems engineering practices once they use branching. It's really amazing, and I think Ernest already worked in a project at one of our clients, and it's really amazing how people start to work in a more agile way once they figure out they can now branch models. And I think this is very important from my side, that if you want to mention the word agile, you better have capabilities to do branching and feature branches and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. So I'm going to jump off to the tool right now to do a very brief demo to give you a sense of what that looks like. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the very first visual diff and merge tool that I've worked with, and I wish that was available to us 15, 20, and 25 years ago. So I just launched Lemon Tree, and Lemon Tree supports two-way and three-way diff and merge. So I'm simply going to demonstrate the simple scenario of two-way. In this dialog, we enter two different EAP files to look at the differences between them. These files come with the tool itself, so I'm just going to use that. We have one file called a.eap, and the other one is b.eap, which is a modified version of the first one. Compare. You can see there's one package in the model, and here we have an indication that there are some changes in that particular package. So what I'm going to do is expand, drill down a little bit, and pick a particular element that shows some changes in it. So here I'm picking that display class or block, not sure which one it is. And under that, we have an activity, and I'm going to select the diagram that's under that. And as you see in that second tier window over here, it's going to show us a visual representation of the differences. Here we have an activity that has two actions. And in the B model version, one of the activities has been removed, and we added a note over here. If you look at the last pane down here, it's going to show you exactly which element properties have been modified. And if you scroll down a little bit, it will even show you the differences in the metadata of that element. So with that visual available, what I'm going to do now is go and switch to merge mode, because so far it's only a visual diff mode that does not modify anything. So now we are in merge mode. We have our A version, we have our B version, and we have a preview of the merge. So at this point, you can select any of these two model versions. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the subtree of the B version, and I'm going to select all elements. You can select each element separately. You have these small little icons, but I'm going to do all elements. And now it's showing me the results over here. To do the merge, you have to click on the Start Merge over here. It's going to prompt you for where do you want to place that merged EAP file. I'm going to save it somewhere over here. And it's going to do the crunching. And when it's done, you can simply open the merged file, and we'll take a look at the result. So here we are. That's the diagram we were looking at, and we have the merged version from the B model. Daniel, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, I think what we can see here, with what is very interesting, that if we do a two-way merge, that we cannot detect conflicts, because this is exactly our USB, and where we shine is if we do a three-way merge, where we take the common version into account as well. We can really detect conflicts, what both users have changed. A conflict for us is if two people worked on the same element or on the same diagram. This is a real conflict. Other conflicts are just working in different parts of the model. If you have it integrated with a version control system, Lemon Tree will not even show up in the standard configuration. It will do its job automatically.
Okay, back to the presentation. So with this setup that I just demonstrated, naturally I demonstrated a simplistic scenario. Like Daniel mentioned, we worked in much more complex environments that without this kind of setup, where with Lemon Tree for visual diff and merge, following a Git flow kind of process, it becomes very, very unmanageable very quickly. So with this kind of setup, now you can rely on enhanced modeling processes in your day-to-day work, doing version control, software configuration management. And of course, if you're looking at putting together a product family engineering environment, this is an absolute necessity to figure out, well, first use these tools, but also figure out your processes, your methodology, and take care of the necessary architectural concerns up front. This setup supports a long-term parallel development of versions and variants in a relatively low-cost maintenance compared to what the scenarios would look like without this setup. And of course, we're looking at reusing existing tools and workflows for system modeling. And most importantly, to provide support for the much in-demand functional safety critical norms. ISO 26262 is an example of that. That's a summary of what we talked about already. It's an established commercial tool for three-way diff and merge tool for enterprise architect models. And changes in both source models and merge result in a visualized, clearly and understandable model. So the key takeaways over here is that with this setup, you have a state-of-the-art team collaboration with models that enables you to have a consistent development state. You get to reduce the risks of the other error-prone practices. And it's a perfect triggers for peer reviews. So where do you go next? For those of you interested in grabbing yourself a copy of Lemon Tree, we have all the information here. I'm going to share this presentation with everyone that attended this webinar. So if you're interested in Lemon Tree, please go directly to Liber. You can reach, you see I have the emails over here. Daniel. Daniel, is this an appropriate email address for you, or you'd like to give them a different email?
Oh, yes, that's perfect because more people watch it, so I have a better chance of a fast answer.
Okay. Daniel, any last comments?
No, I think for me, this was a very good presentation, and it's super exciting to hear other people tell my stories because I can learn a lot. And I think, Ernest, how was your personal experience using Lemon Tree in a large defense project?
Oh, I mean, because of the complexity that we had in that project, there were many different versions of the system that they were developing, and they were developing them for different customers. So it was kind of an incomplete setup for product family engineering. And without Lemon Tree, without exaggerating at all, it would not have been possible to do that. So like I said, I wish that kind of capability existed when the modeling tools first started appearing in the late 90s and the first decade of the 2000s.
Yeah.
The other two webinars in this series, the second one is configuration management in MBSE environments, tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, May 18. That's in 2 weeks from now. And the third one is product family engineering with MBSE. That's also tentatively scheduled for June 1st, in 4 weeks from now. If you are on this webinar, you will automatically get notifications for these webinars. And with that, this completes the webinar. I appreciate your attendance, and you'll hear from us soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.